All right, today we are diving into a topic that is, well, fundamentally changing how we think about digital money and our freedom online: blockchain privacy. There's this huge shift happening, and it all kicks off with one really simple but incredibly powerful idea. And this quote right here, this is the heart of the matter. It's from Vitalik Buterin, the co-founder of Ethereum. And what he's saying is just so crucial. Privacy isn't some add-on feature or a luxury. In the world we live in now, it is a fundamental human right. So you might be wondering, where did this powerful message come from? Well, the setting was this huge crypto event down in Latin America, where Buterin gave a talk that honestly got the entire community buzzing. Yeah, this wasn't just another boring technical update. He got up on stage in front of a packed house in São Paulo, and he directly took on this old, kind of outdated idea of what privacy even means. His whole argument was that for years, we've been thinking about it all wrong. And that leads us right to the core of his big idea. He suggested this radical new way to look at privacy, not as something defensive like hiding your data, but as a proactive way of proving your data is valid. And believe me, that simple little switch changes absolutely everything. Now, what I love about this slide is how clearly it lays out the change in thinking. The old view, right, it was a zero-sum game. You could have transparency or you could have secrecy. You couldn't have both. But Buterin's new vision, which is powered by some amazing new tech, says, wait a minute, why can't we have both? It's not about hiding data anymore. It's about being able to prove your data is legitimate without ever having to show it to anyone. So how on earth is that even possible? It sounds like magic, right? Well, the secret ingredient is something called zero-knowledge proofs, or ZKPs for short. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine you can prove you have the key to a door without ever actually showing the key to anyone. That's what ZKPs do. They let you prove a transaction is valid or that you have enough money in your account, all without giving away any of the sensitive details. It's a total cryptographic game changer. So let's just nail down what this all means, because it's huge. Buterin's insights completely flip the script. All of a sudden, transparency and secrecy aren't enemies anymore. They can actually work together. Privacy and the ability for, say, a regulator to audit a system are no longer fighting each other. But he also threw down a challenge. The real work now is to build things that make this incredible power simple and easy for everyday people to use. And that is the perfect lead-in to the practical side of things. I mean, it's one thing to have a brilliant idea, but it's another thing entirely to make it work in the real world. And this is where a project called HARPO steps into the spotlight. You can think of HARPO as the engine that takes these incredible ideas from theory to reality. It's what's known as a verifiable confidentiality layer, which is just a fancy way of saying it gives developers the tools they need. In other words, it's built to translate that big idea of privacy as a right into an actual system that apps can plug into and use. So let's break down its three main jobs. First, you've got verification. HARPO can confirm that a transaction is totally legit without showing anyone the amounts or who's involved. Second, privacy. It uses those ZKPs we just talked about to shield all the sensitive data. And third, and this one is so important, auditability. It actually allows for controlled access. So if an authorized group, like a regulator, needs to see certain details, they can, but without compromising the privacy of the entire system. And the use cases here really show how flexible this technology is. This isn't just for some niche DeFi corner of the internet. No, HARPO can be built into regulated financial systems, digital payment apps, even stablecoins. It's really designed to be that bridge between the decentralized world and the traditional financial system. Okay, so why does any of this matter so much right now? Because this whole debate is happening while one of the biggest changes in the history of money is going on in the background: the rise of government-backed digital currencies. Yep, all across the globe, central banks are in a race to develop their own digital currencies, what we call CBDCs. The source we're looking at specifically calls out Brazil's Drex project as a prime example. This isn't some far-off science fiction concept, folks. It is happening now, and it raises this massive question about what our financial future is going to look like. And this is the question we all really need to start asking ourselves. As money becomes purely digital, and maybe even totally centralized, who gets to see every single thing we buy? Who holds the keys to our entire financial lives? Look, we're basically standing at a fork in the road, with two very, very different paths ahead of us. One path could lead to a future of total surveillance, where every single purchase is tracked and our financial freedom just fades away. The other path, the one that technologies like HARPO make possible, leads to a future of protected liberty, a future where we find that perfect balance between a system that works and our fundamental right to privacy. And all of this brings us to our conclusion. It leaves us with one last, really provocative question that gets right to the heart of this whole technological revolution. Let that one sink in for a second. The technology now exists to prove something is true without giving up our privacy. So if that's the case, why on earth would we choose a system that forces us to expose every little detail of our financial lives? That's the question that visionaries like Buterin and technologies like HARPO are forcing us all to answer. And really, the choice is up to us.